we're going to look at dividing radicals now. So multiplication and division, remember, are really the same thing, just going in opposite directions. So all the same rules that apply to multiplication also apply to division. So we're going to do insides with insides and outsides with outsides. So the first one here, square root of 6 divided by square root of 2. We can combine these into one square root. So we could actually, well, there's a couple ways of thinking about this. So we can just combine it into one square root and have it be 6 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So then this is the square root of 3. If you want to kind of skip that step in the middle and just divide 6 by 2 and just get the square root of 3, that's fine. One very, very, very important thing, though, you can only do this if they're both underneath the radical or both outside of the radical. So if we have something like on the right where it's square root of 6 divided by 2, this is not the square root of 3. That is wrong, 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 wrong. Don't do that ever. That's very wrong. You can only do it if they're either both under the square root or both not under the square root. So if you have one under square root and one of the numbers not under a square root, you cannot divide them. So with the square root of 6 over 2, there is, over 2, there is nothing you can do with that. That is as far simplified as you can go. Let's look at something like this. So again, the rule is insides with insides, outsides with outsides. So 18 divided by 3, we can do that right away, and we get 6 on the top. Then with the square roots, we've got a square root of 5 on top, square root of 25 on bottom. Again, you can think of that just like a fraction 5 over 25, with the whole thing being with the square root over it. And we can reduce that fraction as 1 over 5 with the square root. But then this is really just, if we bring this back, that's just the square root of 1 over the square root of 5. Well, the square root of 1 is 1, so that's really just 1 over the square root of 5. So then what we end up with is just square root of 5 in the denominator. Or you could just think of that a little more simply as just 25 divided by 5 is 5, so we're going to be left with a 5 underneath the square root on the bottom of the fraction. But in mathematics, we don't want to leave square roots in the denominator. So square roots give us some nasty numbers, and it's not, we like to always have those in the denominator, or in the numerator, because it's a little easier to work with when they're like that. So we're going to actually take that and do something called rationalizing the denominator, which just means that we get rid of the square root from the denominator, or in effect, we move the square root from the denominator to the numerator, from the bottom to the top. And what we can do to make that happen is we can just multiply top and bottom of the fraction by square root of 5 over square root of 5. So what this will do then, if we multiply these fractions, on the top we get 6 times the square root of 5. Then on the bottom, we get square root of 5 times square root of 5. Well, there's a couple ways you can look at how to do this. One way would be like this, square root of 5 times square root of 5. Use our multiplication rule, so we multiply the insides there, and we get the square root of 25. Well, the square root of 25 is 5. So we would get just 5 on the bottom. Another way to think about that is that the square root of 5 is the number that we would have to multiply by itself in order to get 5. So here we're taking the square root of 5 and we're multiplying it by itself, so by definition we have to get 5.